Right now, as you're watching this video, you are made of frozen light, not metaphorically, not spiritually, literally. The atoms in your hand, the chair you're sitting on, the phone or computer screen in front of you, all of it is light that has been slowed down, condensed, and crystallized into what we call matter. And I'm about to prove it to you using nothing but established physics, groundbreaking experiments, and a revelation so profound it will change how you see reality itself. Here's the thing that physicists don't want to admit because it sounds too mystical, too poetic, too impossible. Einstein's most famous equation, E equals mc squared, doesn't just tell us that matter can be converted into energy. It tells us that matter and energy are the same thing. They're not related. They're not similar. They are each other. Matter is just energy moving slowly enough to be caught. And since light is pure energy, and matter is energy in a different form, then matter is literally frozen light, not frozen like ice. Frozen like a photograph captures motion. Frozen like a song being played at 1/1000th of its normal speed. And if that's true, if you are made of frozen light, then everything you think you know about solid reality, about permanence, about the very ground beneath your feet, is about to be shattered. Because light doesn't sit still. Light doesn't age. Light doesn't experience time. So if you're made of light, what does that say about you? Before we go any further, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right now. Not later. Now. Because this video is going to take you on a 3-hour journey through the deepest mysteries of physics. And if you're the kind of person who can appreciate what we're about to explore together, then you're exactly the kind of subscriber I want in this community. Also, drop a comment telling me what country you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I want to know if you're watching this at 3 in the morning because you can't sleep, or if you're procrastinating on work, or if you're genuinely just fascinated by the nature of reality. Let's build a global community of people who aren't afraid to question everything. Now, let's begin with something simple. Something you think you understand. Let's talk about what matter actually is. When you look at a table, you see something solid. When you touch it, you feel resistance. Your brain tells you, this is real, this is matter. This exists independendly of me. But here's what's actually happening at a level your senses can't perceive. That table is 99.999999% empty space. If an atom were the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be a marble at the center, and the electrons would be tiny specks orbiting somewhere in the outer bleachers. Everything in between? Nothing. Void, emptiness. So when you touch that table, you're not actually touching anything. The electrons in your hand are repelling the electrons in the table through electromagnetic force. You're feeling a force field. You're experiencing the interaction of energy fields. There is no solid contact happening anywhere in the universe. Ever. Think about that. You have never touched anything in your entire life. You've only felt energy pushing against energy. But it gets stranger. Those electrons, those tiny specks orbiting the nucleus, they're not little balls. They're not particles in any sense you understand. In 1923, a French physicist named Louis de Broglie proposed something radical. What if particles weren't particles at all? What if they were waves? He suggested that electrons, which everyone assumed were solid little chunks of matter, actually behaved like waves of probability. Not waves in something, like water waves in an ocean. Pure waves of mathematical probability rippling through space itself. And he was right. When scientists actually tested this in the famous double-slit experiment, they discovered that electrons do act like waves. When you're not looking at an electron, it exists as a wave of potential, passing through multiple places at once. Only when you measure it, when you observe it, does it collapse into a single location and act like a particle. The electron isn't choosing to be a wave or a particle. You are forcing it to choose by looking at it. Your observation is literally creating the reality you're measuring. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. If electrons are waves, and electrons are what we think of as matter, then what are these waves made of? What's waving? The answer is going to sound insane, but it's true. They're made of light. Specifically, they're made of the same quantum fields that create light. The electromagnetic field. The electron is a ripple in the electromagnetic field, just like light is a ripple in the electromagnetic field. They're different expressions of the same underlying phenomenon. Think of it like this. Imagine the universe is an ocean. Light is like a gentle wave rolling across the surface fast, fluid, unrestricted. Matter is like a whirlpool, a vortex, a place where the water is spinning so tightly and moving so complexly that it seems to stay in one place. The whirlpool looks different from the wave. It acts different, but it's made of the same water. It's the same ocean expressing itself in a different pattern. Matter is light caught in a pattern so complex and stable that it appears solid to us. But if matter is just frozen light, just energy moving in a tight loop, then where did it come from? Why does the universe have matter at all, instead of just pure energy flying around? To answer that, we need to go back, way back, to the moment of creation itself. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began in an event we call the Big Bang. But here's what most people don't understand about the Big Bang. It wasn't an explosion in space. It was an explosion of space. Space itself expanded from a single point smaller than an atom into the vast cosmos we see today. And in the first moments after that expansion began, the universe was unimaginably hot. So hot that matter as we know it couldn't exist. There were no atoms, no protons, no electrons. Just pure energy in the form of photons, particles of light, ricocheting around at the speed of light. But as the universe expanded, it cooled. And as it cooled, something remarkable happened. The energy started to slow down. Photons started colliding with each other in just the right way, at just the right energy levels. And when they did, they transformed into particles of matter. Pure light converted into electrons and quarks, the building blocks of atoms. This process is called pair production, and we can recreate it in laboratories today. When you smash photons together with enough energy, they spontaneously create matter. Light becomes substance. In 1932, a physicist named Carl Anderson discovered the positron, the antimatter counterpart of the electron, by observing cosmic rays. He proved that gamma rays, high-energy photons, could create pairs of particles and antiparticles out of nothing but pure energy. This wasn't speculation. This wasn't theory. This was observed, measured, documented fact. Light creates matter. And here's the reverse. When matter and antimatter meet, they annihilate each other and convert back into pure light. The equation works both ways. Matter to light, light to matter. They're the same thing wearing different masks. So in the first moments of the universe, light froze into matter. But here's the mystery that haunted physicists for decades. Why did any matter survive? According to the laws of physics as we understood them, the Big Bang should have created equal amounts of matter and antimatter. And when matter meets antimatter, they destroy each other and return to pure energy. So the universe should have flickered into existence for a fraction of a second, and then vanished back into pure light. There should be no matter, no stars, no planets, no you. But obviously, we're here, which means something broke the symmetry. Something made the universe prefer matter over antimatter by the tiniest margin, about 1 part in a billion. For every billion particles of antimatter created, there were 1,000,000,001 particles of matter. The billion pairs annihilated each other, returning to light. But that one extra particle of matter survived. And from that tiny asymmetry, everything in the universe emerged. You are the descendant of that 1 in a billion cosmic accident. You are the leftover, the remnant, the survivor of an almost perfect annihilation. Scientists still don't fully understand why this asymmetry exists. It's one of the deepest mysteries in physics. But what we do know is this. You are made from light that got trapped in a pattern stable enough to survive the cosmic inferno. You are light that learned to hold still. Now I want you to pause for a moment and think about what this means. Look at your hand. Flex your fingers. You think you're looking at flesh, bone, muscle. But you're actually looking at ancient light from the Big Bang, frozen into patterns so intricate and stable that they can move, think, feel, and watch YouTube videos about their own nature. The atoms in your hand are older than the Earth. They were forged in dying stars billions of years ago, scattered across space in supernova explosions, and eventually collected into the planet you're standing on. But before they were atoms, they were light. And at the deepest level, they still are. Let me hit you with something even more mind-bending. Are you ready? Here it is. Light doesn't experience time. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you move, the slower time passes for you relative to someone standing still. This has been proven over and over. Astronauts on the International Space Station age slightly slower than people on Earth because they're moving faster. GPS satellites have to correct for time dilation, or they give you the wrong directions. Time is not absolute. It's relative to your speed. And when you reach the speed of light, time stops completely. From the perspective of a photon traveling from the sun to the Earth, no time passes at all. To the photon, it is emitted and absorbed in the same instant. 8 minutes pass for us on Earth, but 0 time passes for the photon. The photon doesn't experience its journey. It doesn't age. It doesn't change. From its perspective, the entire universe is compressed to 0 distance and 0 time. Now think about this. If matter is frozen light, and light doesn't experience time, then what does that say about you? The light that forms the particles that form your atoms is at its core timeless. The deepest part of your being, the quantum foundation of your existence, exists outside of time. You think you're aging, moving forward through time from birth to death. But the light you're made of doesn't know anything about time. It's eternal, unchanging, timeless. There's a reason mystics and spiritual teachers throughout history have talked about an eternal self, a part of you that doesn't age or die. They didn't have the physics to explain it, but they intuited something true. You are not just a temporary arrangement of matter. You are light pretending to be matter. You are the universe experiencing itself, and light doesn't die. It just changes form. We're about 25 minutes in, and I can feel some of you starting to wonder, okay, this is fascinating, but how do we actually know this? How can we be sure this isn't just poetic metaphor? That's a good question. Let me show you the evidence. Let me show you the experiments that prove matter really is frozen light, and that everything I've said so far isn't speculation, it's measurable, testable, repeatable science. In 1905, Albert Einstein published a paper that would change everything. It was called On the Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies, and buried within it was a simple equation that would become the most famous formula in history. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Most people know this equation. Almost no one understands what it really means. What Einstein was saying is this: mass and energy are not two different things. They are the same thing measured in different units. Mass is just a form of energy. Dense, concentrated, slow-moving energy, but energy nonetheless. And the speed of light squared is the conversion factor. It tells you how much energy is locked up in a given amount of mass. And because the speed of light is enormous 300 million meters per second, and because you're squaring it, even a tiny amount of mass contains an absurd amount of energy. 1 kilogram of matter, if converted entirely to energy, would release 90 petajoules of energy. That's enough to power the entire United States for about 3 minutes. That's the energy of 21 million tons of TNT. That's roughly the explosive power of 15 Hiroshima bombs. From 1 kilogram. From 2 pounds of matter. All of that energy is locked up in the light waves that form the quarks and electrons, that form the atoms that form that kilogram of matter. And we've proven this. We've measured it. Every time a nuclear reaction occurs, whether in the sun or in a nuclear reactor or in a bomb, matter is being converted to energy. The mass of the products is slightly less than the mass of the reactants. Where did that missing mass go? It became energy. It became light. It became heat and radiation. Einstein's equation predicts exactly how much energy you'll get from a given amount of mass. And every single test we've ever done confirms it down to the smallest decimal places. But the equation works in reverse too. Energy can become mass. Light can become matter. And we've done that in laboratories. In the 1990s, physicists at CERN and at Stanford used particle accelerators to smash photons particles of light together with such force that they created electrons and positrons out of nothing but pure light. They took electromagnetic radiation, invisible waves of energy, and froze them into particles with mass. They created matter from light right before their eyes. The experiment is called the Breet-Wheeler process, named after physicists Gregory Breet and John Wheeler, who predicted it in 1934. But it wasn't successfully demonstrated until the 1990s because the energies required are enormous. You need photons with millions or billions of electron volts of energy. You need conditions similar to the early universe or the interior of stars. But it works. It's real. Matter can be created from pure light. And here's what's even more astonishing. This isn't just happening in exotic laboratory conditions. It's happening all the time, everywhere, even in the vacuum of space. Quantum mechanics tells us that empty space isn't actually empty. It's seething with virtual particles popping in and out of existence. Pairs of particles and antiparticles spontaneously appear out of the quantum vacuum, exist for a tiny fraction of a second, and then annihilate each other back into the void. This has been measured. This is real. Where are these particles coming from? They're coming from the quantum fields that permeate all of space. The electromagnetic field, the electron field, the quark fields. These fields are fundamental to reality itself. They exist everywhere, even in empty space. And when these fields fluctuate in just the right way, they create particles. Light energy from the vacuum becomes matter for an instant before dissolving back into light. You exist in a universe that is constantly creating and destroying matter from pure energy. The boundary between light and matter isn't fixed. It's fluid. It's permeable. It's constantly shifting. Matter is just light that's stable enough to last more than a fraction of a second. You are a persistent pattern in an ocean of energy that's constantly churning and changing. Let me give you an analogy that might make this clearer. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing by the ocean, watching waves roll in. Most of the waves just rise and fall, spreading across the water and disappearing. But every now and then, a wave curls in just the right way and forms a whirlpool, a vortex of rotating water that holds its shape for a while. The whirlpool isn't made of different water than the waves. It's made of the same water, just organized in a more complex, more stable pattern. And if you didn't know better, if you'd never seen the ocean before, you might think the whirlpool was a separate thing, a solid object floating on the water. But it's not. It's just water spinning. Matter is like the whirlpool. Light is like the waves. They're both expressions of the same underlying ocean, the quantum fields that make up reality. Matter is light spinning in place. And just like a whirlpool can eventually dissipate back into ordinary waves, matter can decay back into light. The pattern can unravel. The frozen light can melt. This isn't just a philosophical curiosity. This is the foundation of how the universe actually works. Every force, every interaction, every single thing that happens in the physical world comes down to quantum fields exchanging particles of light. When you feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, photons from the sun are being absorbed by electrons in your skin cells. When you see an object, photons are bouncing off that object and hitting the photoreceptors in your eyes. When you touch something, electrons in your hand are exchanging virtual photons with electrons in the object, creating a repulsive electromagnetic force. Light is the messenger. Light is the medium. Light is the substance of reality. In the 1940s, physicists Richard Feynman, Julian Schwinger, and Shinichiro Tominaga developed a theory called quantum electrodynamics Q'd for short, which describes exactly how light and matter interact. And it's the most precisely tested theory in all of science. Q'd predicts the behavior of electrons and photons to an accuracy of 1 part in 10 billion. It's like predicting the distance from New York to Los Angeles to within the width of a single human hair. No other scientific theory comes close to that level of precision. And what does QED tell us? It tells us that every interaction between charged particles, every electron, every proton, every atom happens through the exchange of photons. Matter doesn't touch matter. Matter communicates through light. The electromagnetic force, the force that holds atoms together, that creates chemistry, that allows your neurons to fire and your heart to beat, all of it is mediated by photons, by light. You are not a collection of particles held together by mysterious forces. You are a symphony of light waves interfacing with each other in unimaginably complex patterns. Your body is a standing wave in the electromagnetic field. You are light having a conversation with itself. We're almost 40 minutes in, and if you're still with me, you're starting to see the picture. But I want to go deeper. I want to show you something that's going to fundamentally change how you think about existence itself. Are you ready? Here's the question. If matter is frozen light, and light is just a ripple in a quantum field, then what is a quantum field? What is it made of? And the answer is going to sound like I've lost my mind, but I promise you, this is what the math says. This is what the experiments show. A quantum field is made of nothing. It's not made of anything. It's pure mathematical potential. It's a field of probability amplitudes that describes where particles might appear and how they might behave. The field itself doesn't exist in the way you think existence works. It's not a substance. It's not made of smaller things. It's the most fundamental layer of reality, and it's purely abstract. It's information, it's relationship, it's pattern. Think about what that means. You are made of atoms. Atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons and neutrons are made of quarks. Quarks and electrons are excitations in quantum fields, and quantum fields are made of nothing. Pure mathematical relationships. At the very bottom of reality, there is no stuff. There's only pattern, only structure, only information organizing itself. You are a pattern that the universe is making. You're not separate from the universe, looking at it from the outside. You are the universe, arranging itself into a temporary form that can think and feel and wonder about its own nature. And that pattern, at its core, is light. Frozen, organized, impossibly complex light. But light nonetheless. This is why physicists like John Wheeler spent the last decades of his life arguing that information is more fundamental than matter or energy. He coined the phrase "it from bit," suggesting that physical reality emerges from information, from the abstract patterns and relationships that quantum fields encode. Matter is just information made visible. Light is just information in motion. And you are the universe's way of reading its own code? Now let me address something some of you are probably thinking. This sounds like mysticism. This sounds like we're leaving science behind and entering woo-woo territory. And I get it. This does sound mystical, but here's the thing, it's not. Every single thing I've told you is backed by experimental evidence, by mathematical proofs, by peer-reviewed papers published in the most prestigious physics journals in the world. The reason it sounds mystical is because reality itself is stranger than anything mystics ever imagined. We've discovered that the universe is made of light and information and probability, and those things sound abstract and spiritual because they are abstract. But they're also measurably, testably real. The mistake isn't treating matter like it's frozen light. The mistake is treating light and matter like they're made of tiny billiard balls instead of waves and fields and probabilities. We evolved to survive in a world of medium-sized objects moving at medium speeds. So our brains built a model of reality that's useful for hunting and gathering and building shelter. But that model is wrong at small scales and high speeds. The quantum world doesn't work like your intuition says it should, but it works exactly like the math says it should. And the math says light and matter are the same thing. Let me give you another piece of evidence, something discovered more recently that confirms everything we've been talking about. In 2012, physicists at the RHIC, the Relativistic Heavy Ion Collider, did something remarkable. They accelerated gold ions to 99.995% of the speed of light and smashed them together. And in that collision, something incredible happened. The kinetic energy of those ions was so enormous that it created a quark-gluon plasma, a state of matter that only existed in the first microseconds after the Big Bang, when the universe was too hot for atoms to form. But here's the kicker. When they analyzed the debris from these collisions, they found that some of the photons, the particles of light, had collided with each other and created pairs of electrons and positrons. They had, once again, created matter from pure light, and not in a carefully controlled experiment designed specifically to do that. This happened as a side effect of smashing gold atoms together. Light just spontaneously decided to become matter because the conditions were right. This proves something profound. The barrier between light and matter is arbitrary. It's not fundamental. It's just a matter of energy density and temperature. Get things hot enough, energetic enough, and light turns into matter. Let things cool down, slow down, and matter holds its form. But they're the same thing. Different phases of the same underlying reality, like ice and water and steam. And here's something that's going to blow your mind. This process is reversible and ongoing everywhere in the universe. Every star in the sky is converting matter into light. Nuclear fusion in the sun's core is taking hydrogen atoms matter and fusing them into helium, releasing the mass difference as pure light energy. The sun is melting matter back into light, and that light is what allows life to exist on Earth. You're powered by unfrozen light. Every calorie of food you eat came from plants that captured photons from the sun and used that light energy to build sugars and starches, which means you are literally eating light. You're consuming frozen light from the sun, breaking it down, and using it to power your frozen light body. The universe is a continuous cycle of light freezing into matter and matter melting back into light. Stars condense from clouds of gas-frozen light. Stars fuse that matter back into light. Supernovas explode, creating heavy elements complex frozen light. Those elements form planets. Life emerges on those planets. Life is powered by light from the nearest star. Life builds complex structures, bodies, civilizations, all made of frozen light. And eventually, over trillions of years, all of that matter will decay back into light. The universe will end in a state of maximum entropy, with all matter dissolved back into a thin gruel of photons, spreading forever through an ever-expanding space. The universe began as light and will end as light. And you're just a beautiful temporary arrangement of that light, having an experience in between. We're past the 1 hour mark now, and I want to shift gears slightly. We've established the science. We understand the physics. But now I want to explore the implications. What does it mean that you're made of frozen light? How does this change the way you see yourself, your life, your place in the cosmos? Let's start with something personal. You've probably had moments in your life where you felt disconnected from everything, where you looked at the world and felt like you were just a tiny, insignificant speck in an uncaring universe, where you wondered what the point of it all was. I think everyone has those moments. But here's what I want you to understand. That feeling of separation is an illusion. It's a trick your brain plays on you because evolution wired you to think of yourself as an independent agent, a separate self that needs to survive and reproduce. But physics tells a different story. You are not separate from the universe. You are a localized expression of the universe. The atoms in your body were forged in the cores of ancient stars that exploded billions of years ago. The light that powers your cells came from the sun 8 minutes ago. The quantum fields that make up your electrons and quarks extend infinitely in all directions and are connected to every other particle in the universe through quantum entanglement. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, temporarily condensed into human form. And because you're made of light, because the deepest foundation of your being is electromagnetic radiation, frozen into complex patterns, you share something fundamental with everything else that exists. The light in your eyes is the same light that shines from distant stars. The electromagnetic force holding your atoms together is the same force holding together the atoms in the farthest galaxy. There is no dividing line between you and the cosmos. It's all one continuous field of light and energy and probability, expressing itself in infinite different forms. This isn't spirituality. This is physics. But it has spiritual implications because it destroys the illusion of separateness. When you understand that you're made of frozen light, that you're a temporary pattern in an eternal ocean of energy, it changes how you relate to existence. You realize you're not a separate thing that's going to die and disappear. You're a wave that rises from the ocean, exists for a moment, and returns to the ocean. But the ocean itself is eternal. The light itself is timeless. And you are that light experiencing itself. Here's something else to consider. If you're made of light, and light doesn't experience time from its own perspective, then in a very real sense, you are timeless. Your body ages. Your memories accumulate. Your cells divide and die and are replaced. But the fundamental particles that make up your atoms, the quarks and electrons that are ripples in eternal quantum fields, those don't age. They don't change. An electron created in the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago is identical to an electron created in a laboratory yesterday. They're both excitations in the same electron field, and that field is timeless. So which part of you is the real you? Are you the changing, aging body? Or are you the timeless light that the body is made of? The answer is both. You're the pattern and the substance. You're the wave and the ocean. You're the temporary form and the eternal energy. And recognizing this, really internalizing it, can free you from a lot of anxiety about aging and death. Because while the pattern will eventually dissolve, the light never goes anywhere. It just rearranges itself into new patterns. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. And you are energy. Think about what happens when you die. Your body decomposes. The complex molecules break down into simpler compounds. The atoms scatter. Some are absorbed by plants. Some wash into the ocean. Some evaporate into the atmosphere. But the actual particles, the quarks and electrons, don't die. They can't die. They're fundamental. They continue existing, joining new structures, becoming part of new patterns. The light that formed you doesn't disappear. It just stops being organized in the specific way that was you. And if that sounds depressing, consider this. The same is true of your birth. The atoms that make up your body right now existed before you were born. They were part of the earth, the air, the food your mother ate while you were in the womb. Those atoms came together in a new pattern, and that pattern became you. You didn't come into the world. You came out of it like a wave rising from the ocean. And when you die, you'll sink back into the ocean, and other waves will rise. The light continues. The universe continues. The pattern changes, but the substance is eternal. This is why so many mystics and spiritual teachers throughout history have talked about transcending the ego, about realizing your true nature as pure consciousness, as the eternal witness, as the divine spark. They didn't have quantum field theory. They didn't have particle accelerators. But they intuited something that physics has now confirmed. Your deepest identity is not your name, your memories, your personality. It's the light itself, the pure energy that animates all of existence. And that light is timeless, boundless, and shared by everything that exists. Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, but I don't feel like light. I feel solid. I feel real. I feel separate. And that's normal. Your brain evolved to create that illusion because it's useful. If you walked around constantly aware that you're 99.999% empty space, that your atoms are mostly void with tiny particles whirling around, that those particles are actually probability waves in quantum fields made of pure information, you'd have a hard time functioning. You need the illusion of solidity to navigate the world. But here's the beautiful thing. You can hold both truths at once. You can live your everyday life, treating objects as solid and yourself as a separate individual, while also understanding at a deeper level that it's all frozen light, that you're all connected, that the boundaries are arbitrary. It's like watching a movie. You can get absorbed in the story and feel emotions about the characters, while simultaneously knowing that you're watching flickering light on a screen. Both perspectives are valid. Both are useful. And honestly, I think understanding that you're made of frozen light makes life richer, not poorer. It adds a layer of wonder to everything you do. When you eat food, you're consuming frozen light from the sun. When you see a sunset, you're watching light that left the sun 8 minutes ago, traveled 93 million miles through space, and scattered through the atmosphere to paint the sky in colors that your brain interprets as beauty. When you touch another person, you're feeling electromagnetic forces between frozen light in your hand and frozen light in theirs. Every single experience you have is light interacting with light. And I remember sitting there, thinking about what that meant. It meant that in principle, you could beam light across space and use it to construct matter at the destination. You could take a pattern of matter, convert it to light, transmit that light, and reconstruct the matter on the other side. It's like Star Trek teleportation, except we're not moving the matter, we're converting it to light, transmitting the light, and using that light to create new matter in the same pattern. And suddenly, I realized that's basically what life is already doing. DNA is a pattern stored in matter. When cells divide, they're copying that pattern and using it to organize matter into new forms. Life is already manipulating frozen light according to informational blueprints. You are a pattern in frozen light, and that pattern can be copied, transmitted, and reconstructed, which raises a profound question. If consciousness emerges from the pattern of frozen light in your brain, and if that pattern could theoretically be copied and recreated in a different substrate, different frozen light, or even in light itself, traveling at the speed of light, would the copy be you? Would you experience both places at once? Or would there be two separate yous, both convinced they're the original? These aren't just philosophical thought experiments anymore. These are questions that might become technologically relevant in our lifetimes. As we better understand how consciousness emerges from the physical structure of the brain, we're going to be forced to confront the question of what you really are. Are you the specific atoms? Or are you the pattern those atoms form? And if you're the pattern, then the atoms are just temporary vehicles for something more fundamental: your information. Your light organized in a very specific, very complex way. Let me take you even deeper. We're about 90 minutes in, and this is where I want to get really personal with you. I want to talk about how understanding that you're made of frozen light should change the way you live your life. Here's the thing. Most people go through life treating themselves as separate, isolated individuals competing for scarce resources in an indifferent universe. And that worldview leads to a lot of suffering. It leads to loneliness, anxiety, fear of death, and a constant striving to accumulate things to build walls around yourself because you feel fundamentally vulnerable and alone. But if you really internalize the fact that you're frozen light, that you're a temporary pattern in an eternal ocean of energy, that you're fundamentally connected to everything else in the universe, it changes everything. You stop seeing other people as competitors and start seeing them as other waves in the same ocean. You stop fearing death because you realize that the light doesn't die, it just changes form. You stop trying to grasp and accumulate because you realize you're not separate from the universe. You are the universe, and you already contain everything. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the direct implication of the physics we've been discussing. If matter is frozen light, and light is a vibration in a quantum field that extends everywhere, then there is no true separation between you and anything else. The electron field that creates the electrons in your body is the same field that creates the electrons in distant galaxies. It's one field, one ocean, expressing itself in countless different locations. You are not separate from that field. You are a localized excitation in that field. You're a wave, not the ocean itself, but you're made entirely of ocean. And waves, by their nature, are temporary. They rise, they crest, they fall, but the ocean is eternal. So in a very real sense, your identity as a separate individual is temporary. But your identity as the ocean, as the universal field of light and energy, is eternal. You were never born, and you will never die, because the deepest part of you has always existed and will always exist. Only the specific pattern called you is temporary. Now, I'm not saying this means you should stop caring about your life or the lives of others. Quite the opposite. When you realize you're all the same light, all the same ocean, you develop a natural compassion for everyone and everything. Because harming others is literally harming yourself. It's like your left hand attacking your right hand. It's the ocean fighting against itself, not realizing it's all one thing. And this perspective can help with one of the most profound challenges humans face, the fear of death. I know some of you watching this are terrified of death. Maybe you lie awake at night thinking about it. Maybe you avoid thinking about it at all costs. But here's what understanding that your frozen light reveals. Death is not annihilation. It's transformation. When a wave in the ocean crashes on the shore and dissolves back into the water, did the wave die? In one sense, yes, that specific pattern, that specific form no longer exists. But the water didn't go anywhere. It's still part of the ocean. It will form new waves. The substance is eternal, even though the form is temporary. You are that wave. Your body, your personality, your memories, these are the specific shape of your wave. And yes, that shape will eventually dissolve. But the light that forms you, the energy that animates you, the quantum fields that you're an excitation of, those are eternal. They existed before you were born. They'll exist after you die. They are you at the deepest level. And here's something even more profound. Because light doesn't experience time, because photons exist in an eternal present moment, the light that makes up your body exists outside of time in a fundamental way. The universe doesn't just contain all of space, it contains all of time. Past, present, and future all exist in the four-dimensional structure of space-time. From the perspective of the universe as a whole, from the view outside of time, you're not dying in some distant future. You exist across your entire timeline simultaneously. You are always going to exist exactly when and where you do. You are frozen light, eternally crystallized in the space-time structure of the universe. Think about it like this. Imagine the universe is a four-dimensional block of ice. Your life is a thread of warm, glowing light frozen inside that ice, stretching from your birth to your death. From our perspective, moving through time, it feels like the light is moving, like we're progressing from birth toward death. But from outside the block, from a timeless perspective, the entire thread exists all at once. Your whole life, every moment you've ever experienced or ever will experience, is already there, already complete, frozen in the eternal structure of space-time. This is what Einstein meant when he wrote to the family of his friend Michel Besso after Besso died. Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Einstein understood that time is not what it appears to be. The present moment isn't more real than the past or future. They all exist in the four-dimensional structure of the universe. Death doesn't erase you. It's just the endpoint of your timeline. But that timeline exists eternally in the structure of space-time. You are frozen light, and light exists in the eternal now, which means at the deepest level, you exist in the eternal now. Not just in this moment, but in all moments of your existence simultaneously. You are always alive from the timeless perspective of the universe itself. Now, I want to shift to something that's going to sound wild, but it's a direct consequence of everything we've discussed. If matter is frozen light, and if consciousness emerges from matter, then consciousness is frozen light too. Your thoughts, your feelings, your sense of self, all of it is electromagnetic patterns in the frozen light that makes up your brain, which means consciousness itself is light. Awareness is light. You are light that has become aware of itself. Let that sink in for a moment. The universe is made of light. Light organized itself into atoms. Atoms organize themselves into molecules. Molecules organize themselves into cells. Cells organize themselves into brains. And brains generated consciousness, which means consciousness is what happens when light becomes complex enough to experience itself. You are the universe's way of knowing that it exists. You are how light learns that light exists. And this isn't just poetic language. This is a description of what actually happened over billions of years of cosmic evolution. The Big Bang created light. Light froze into matter. Matter condensed into stars. Stars forged heavy elements and exploded. Those elements formed planets. On at least one planet, and probably countless others, life emerged. Life evolved into beings complex enough to wonder about their own existence. And now those beings, you are made of the original light from the Big Bang, reorganized into a form that can think about light, study light, understand light, and realize that they themselves are light. This is the universe waking up to itself. This is light recognizing light, and you're not separate from that process. You're not an observer watching it from outside. You are that process. You are the mechanism by which the universe becomes conscious of its own nature. The physicist John Wheeler, who we mentioned earlier, spent his later years developing an idea he called the participatory universe. His argument was that observers, conscious beings, aren't just passive receivers of information about an objective external reality. Observers are participants in creating reality. When you measure a quantum particle, you force it to choose a specific state. Before measurement, it exists as a superposition of multiple possibilities. Your observation collapses those possibilities into actuality. You're not just discovering reality. You're helping to create it. Now, Wheeler was careful not to suggest that consciousness itself causes collapse. The details of quantum measurement are still debated. But what's clear is that conscious observers play a unique role in the universe. Without observers, quantum possibilities would never collapse into definite outcomes. Without consciousness, the universe would remain in a fuzzy superposition of all possible states. Consciousness is the mechanism that crystallizes possibility into actuality. It's how light decides which form to take. And if that's true, then your existence isn't just a passive byproduct of cosmic evolution. It's essential to the functioning of the universe itself. The universe needs observers. It needs consciousness. It needs light to become aware of itself. Without you, without all of us, quantum reality would never become concrete. The universe would remain a sea of unrealized potential. You're not just in the universe, you're completing it. You're how the universe actualizes itself. Let me give you a practical example of what this means. Right now, as you watch this video, photons from your screen are entering your eyes, hitting the rods and cones in your retina, triggering chemical reactions that send electrical signals along your optic nerve to your visual cortex. Frozen light in your neurons is processing the information carried by light from your screen. Light is reading light. Energy is experiencing energy. And in that process, meaning emerges. Understanding emerges. Consciousness emerges. You're not separate from this process watching it happen. You are the process. You are the experience of light processing information about itself. And every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every moment of awareness, all of it is frozen light vibrating in complex patterns, creating the subjective experience of being you. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. If consciousness is just a pattern of frozen light, then in principle, that pattern could be created in different substrates. You could potentially run consciousness on something other than biological neurons. You could encode the pattern in photons traveling through fiber optic cables. You could create it in quantum computers. You could theoretically transfer consciousness from frozen light in a brain to pure light itself. And this isn't science fiction anymore. Neuroscientists are mapping the connectome, the complete map of neural connections in the brain. Engineers are building brain-computer interfaces that can read and write neural patterns. Quantum computers are beginning to simulate quantum processes that classical computers never could. We're approaching the technological capability to copy, transfer, and potentially upload patterns of consciousness. Which raises the ultimate question. If your consciousness is a pattern in frozen light, and that pattern can be copied or transferred, then what are you? Are you the specific atoms in your brain? Or are you the pattern itself? If the pattern is what matters, then you're not really your body, you're information. You're light organized in a very specific way. And information can be copied. Light can be transmitted. Which means you could theoretically exist in multiple places at once, or move from one substrate to another, or even be preserved indefinitely by constantly copying the pattern to new hardware. This is both exhilarating and terrifying. It means death might be optional. If we can copy the pattern before it dissolves, we could preserve consciousness indefinitely. But it also raises questions about identity that we don't have good answers to yet. If there are two copies of the pattern, are there two yous? Or are they both you? Do they share the same continuous stream of consciousness? Or do they diverge into separate individuals? These aren't abstract philosophical questions anymore. These are engineering problems we're going to have to solve in the next few decades. And the answers will depend on understanding the fundamental nature of consciousness, which means understanding how frozen light organizes itself into awareness. We're about 2 hours in now, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge something. Some of you are probably feeling overwhelmed. Some of you are having your worldview shattered in real time, and that's okay. That's actually good. That means you're really grappling with these ideas instead of just treating them as interesting trivia. Let me ask you, when you woke up this morning, did you ever imagine that by the end of today, you'd understand that you're made of frozen light? That your consciousness is light experiencing itself? That you're not separate from the universe, but a temporary pattern in an eternal ocean of energy? Probably not. But here you are. And the fact that you've made it this far tells me something about you. You're someone who isn't afraid to question your assumptions. You're someone who can handle profound truths even when they're uncomfortable. You're someone who wants to understand reality as it actually is, not as you wish it were. And that makes you rare. Most people spend their entire lives never questioning the basic assumptions their culture handed them. They accept that matter is solid, that they're separate individuals, that death is the end, and they never dig deeper. But you're here, digging deeper. You're doing what humans do better than anything else. You're using frozen light in your brain to understand that it's frozen light. Your consciousness investigating consciousness. You're the universe studying itself. So let me make a prediction. After this video ends, you're going to look at the world differently. When you see solid objects, you'll remember that they're mostly empty space. When you feel sunlight on your skin, you'll remember that you're being touched by the same substance you're made of. When you look at other people, you'll remember that you're all patterns in the same ocean. And when you contemplate your own existence, you'll remember that the light you're made of is eternal, even though the specific pattern called you is temporary. This knowledge should be empowering, not depressing. Yes, your individual existence is finite, but you're part of something infinite. You're not a separate thing that's going to disappear. You're a wave that will return to the ocean. And the ocean is eternal. Let me share something personal. When I first really understood these concepts, not just intellectually, but in my bones, it changed how I related to everything. I stopped being so afraid of death because I realized that the part of me that's eternal can't die. I stopped feeling so separate from others because I understood we're all made of the same light. I stopped chasing external validation because I realized I'm not a separate self that needs to prove its worth. Realizing that my individual existence is temporary made me value it more, not less. This specific pattern called me will only exist once. These specific experiences, these specific relationships, this specific perspective on reality, it's all unique and unrepeatable. When this wave crashes, it won't form again in exactly the same way. So I might as well fully experience it while it lasts. I might as well appreciate the miracle of frozen light, becoming conscious enough to understand that it's frozen light. Here's something else this understanding reveals. You're not just passively experiencing reality. You're actively creating it through your observations, your choices, your attention. Where you place your awareness shapes how frozen light organizes itself in your brain. The thoughts you think create neural pathways that persist. The emotions you feel trigger cascades of electromagnetic activity that ripple through your nervous system. You're not just a pattern in frozen light. You're a pattern that can modify itself. Your light learning to shape itself. And this means you have more agency than you might think. Yes, you're constrained by the laws of physics. Yes, you're shaped by genetics and environment and circumstances beyond your control. But within those constraints, you have the ability to reorganize the frozen light that makes up your consciousness. You can change your thought patterns. You can form new habits. You can literally rewire your brain through repeated practice and attention. You're not just a static pattern. You're a dynamic system that can evolve and transform itself. Every time you learn something new, frozen light in your brain reorganizes itself. Neurons form new connections. Synapses strengthen or weaken. The physical structure of your brain changes to encode the new information, which means learning is literally a process of reshaping frozen light. Every skill you develop, every insight you gain, every habit you form, all of it involves light rearranging itself into new patterns. And this happens constantly. Your brain is not a fixed structure. It's a dynamic system in constant flux. Neurons fire in synchrony, creating temporary coalitions. Neurotransmitters flood across synaptic gaps. Electrical signals cascade through neural networks. It's a churning, roiling storm of electromagnetic activity, and somehow, from all that chaos, your unified sense of self emerges. You feel like a single, coherent person. but you're actually a temporary coalition of billions of neurons, each one a complex arrangement of frozen light, all working together to create the illusion of a unified self. Think about what that means. You are not a thing. You're a process. You're a verb, not a noun. You're what happens when frozen light organizes itself into self-aware patterns. And because those patterns are constantly changing, you're constantly becoming someone new. The person reading this sentence is literally not the same person who started reading this video description 3 hours ago. Countless neurons have fired in different patterns. New connections have formed. Old connections have weakened. You've changed. The frozen light has rearranged itself. And yet there's continuity. There's a thread that connects the you from 3 hours ago to the you right now. That thread is memory. It's narrative. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are. But even that story is encoded in frozen light. Your autobiographical memories are patterns of synaptic connections. Your sense of self is a neural network that activates when you think about me. It's all frozen light, creating the experience of being a continuous, coherent person. But here's the thing that blows my mind every time I think about it. That sense of continuity, that feeling of being the same person over time, is itself an illusion created by the pattern. There's no unchanging essence, no permanent soul separate from the physical brain. There's just frozen light, constantly rearranging itself, while maintaining enough similarity from moment to moment that it feels like continuity. You're like a whirlpool in a river the water is constantly flowing through and changing, but the pattern persists and maintains its shape. And this is actually liberating once you accept it. It means you're not trapped by your past. The frozen light that encoded your memories and habits and traumas can be reorganized. Its difficult neural patterns resist change, but it's possible. People recover from PTSD. Addicts get sober. Pessimists learn optimism. The brain is plastic. The frozen light can be reshaped. You are not doomed to be whoever you were yesterday. Every moment is an opportunity for the pattern to reorganize itself. Let me bring this back to the cosmic scale for a moment. We've been talking about consciousness as frozen light organizing itself in your brain. But zoom out. What is a human being in the context of the universe? We're complex arrangements of atoms that can move and reproduce and process information. We're patterns of frozen light that have become stable enough to persist for decades and complex enough to be self-aware. But we're not the only such patterns. Every living thing is frozen light organized in self-maintaining, self-reproducing patterns. Every cell is a whirlpool of frozen light processing information and resisting entropy. Life itself is frozen light learning to stay frozen. It's light that's figured out how to maintain complex patterns against the universe's tendency toward disorder. And consciousness is frozen light. It's not just maintaining patterns, but creating new patterns, modeling possible futures, and choosing between them. You are light that has become so sophisticated it can imagine things that don't exist yet, and then bring them into existence through action. Think about what that means on a cosmic timescale. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was a hot soup of pure energy. No atoms, no complexity, just photons bouncing around. Then the universe expanded and cooled, and that energy froze into matter. Matter condensed into stars. Stars forged complex elements and exploded. Those elements formed planets. On at least one planet, the frozen light organized itself into self-replicating patterns. Those patterns evolved for billions of years, becoming more complex until eventually they became complex enough to wonder about their own origins. You are the current endpoint of that process. You are what happens when light gets cold enough and complex enough and organized enough to think about itself. You're not separate from cosmic evolution. You're the leading edge of it. You're how the universe explores what's possible. Every thought you have, every choice you make, every creative act, it's all part of the universe's ongoing process of organizing itself into ever more complex patterns. And here's something that should fill you with awe. You are almost certainly not the final form. Human consciousness, as sophisticated as it is probably not the most complex thing frozen light can become. We're already creating artificial intelligence, teaching machines to process information in ways that might eventually exceed human capabilities. We're merging with technology, enhancing our brains with external memory and processing power. We're learning to edit genes, potentially accelerating our own evolution. The frozen light that makes up humanity is on the verge of transforming itself into something new. What comes after humans? Post-humans? Digital consciousnesses uploaded to computers? Hybrid beings that are part biological, part machine? Artificial intelligences that exceed us in every way? We don't know. But what we do know is this: whatever comes next, it will still be frozen light. It will still be the universe organizing itself into ever more complex patterns. The substance is eternal. Only the forms change. And you get to be part of that transition. You're alive at one of the most pivotal moments in cosmic history, when frozen light is on the verge of fundamentally transforming itself. The choices you make, the technologies you help create or resist, the values you embody, all of it will shape what comes next. You're not just observing cosmic evolution. You're participating in it. You're helping to steer it. We're approaching the 3-hour mark, and I want to bring all of this together. We've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the physics of matter and energy, about how light freezes into particles, about quantum fields and consciousness and cosmic evolution. But what does it all mean? What should you take away from understanding that you're frozen light? Here's what I think. First, you should never feel insignificant again. You are not a random accident in an uncaring universe. You are the universe itself, temporarily taking form as a conscious being. You are light that has become aware of itself. You are how the cosmos knows that it exists. That's not insignificant. That's the most significant thing in the universe. Second, you should never feel truly separate from anything. Yes, you have boundaries. Yes, you have an individual perspective. But at the deepest level, you're made of the same quantum fields as everything else. The electron field that creates the electrons in your body is the same field that creates electrons in distant galaxies. You're not separate from the universe. You're a localized expression of it. When you help others, you're helping yourself. When you harm the environment, you're harming yourself. It's all one ocean. We're all waves in the same sea. Third, you should never fear death quite as much. Yes, the specific pattern called you is temporary, but the light you're made of is eternal. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. When you die, the frozen light that formed you will reorganize into new patterns. You're not going to disappear. You're going to change form. And at the deepest level, the light itself exists outside of time, in an eternal present moment. You are, in a very real sense, immortal. Fourth, you should appreciate the miracle of your existence. The odds against you existing are astronomical. If the Big Bang had been slightly different, matter wouldn't have formed. If the universe expanded at a slightly different rate, stars wouldn't have formed. If the chemistry of Earth had been slightly different, life wouldn't have emerged. If any of your ancestors going back billions of years hadn't survived long enough to reproduce, you wouldn't be here. You are the product of an unbroken chain of frozen light, maintaining itself for billions of years, against incredible odds, culminating in this moment where you're conscious enough to understand that you're frozen light. And finally, you should feel empowered to shape the frozen light that makes up your consciousness. You're not a fixed thing. You're a dynamic pattern that can reorganize itself. Through practice, through learning, through intention, you can reshape your neural pathways. You can change your thought patterns. You can literally modify the structure of the frozen light in your brain. You have more control over who you become than you might think. let me leave you with one final thought. In every moment of your life, you're faced with a choice. You can live as if you're a separate, isolated individual fighting to survive in a hostile universe. Or you can live with the understanding that you're the universe itself, experiencing what it's like to be human for a brief moment. You can cling desperately to your individual existence, terrified of death and loss. Or you can relax into the knowledge that the deepest part of you is eternal, that you are never born and will never truly die, that you're just a wave rising briefly from an infinite ocean before returning to it. Neither perspective is wrong, but one leads to anxiety, grasping, and suffering. The other leads to peace, compassion, and wonder. The choice is yours. The frozen light in your brain can organize itself however you direct it through attention and intention. You are frozen light. You are the universe experiencing itself. You are a temporary pattern in an eternal ocean of energy. And for this brief moment, you have the incredible privilege of being conscious, of being aware, of knowing that you exist and wondering why. Don't waste it. Don't sleepwalk through life treating yourself as ordinary. You are a cosmic miracle. You are 13.8 billion years of evolution, crystallized into a form that can think and feel and love and create. You are how light learns what light is. And that, more than anything else, is what this 3-hour journey has been about. Not just teaching you physics, not just explaining quantum mechanics or relativity or particle physics, but helping you see yourself as you truly are, frozen light, temporarily taking human form, participating in the universe's grand project of understanding itself. When you turn off this video and go about your day, I want you to remember, every atom in your body was forged in a dying star. Every photon you see with your eyes is light that left the sun 8 minutes ago. Every thought you think is frozen light, processing information about itself. You are not in the universe. You are the universe. And the universe is light. So go forth as what you truly are. Light pretending to be human for a little while. Make the most of it. Love deeply, because love is light recognizing itself in another form. Create boldly, because creativity is light exploring what's possible. Learn voraciously, because learning is light understanding itself better. And when your time comes to dissolve back into the cosmic ocean, let go gracefully, knowing that the light itself is eternal. You are frozen light. You always have been. You always will be. And now you know it. Thank you for spending these 3 hours with me, exploring the deepest mysteries of existence. If this video changed how you see reality, hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to understand that they're made of light. And drop a comment telling me, how does it feel to know you're frozen light? How will this change the way you live your life? The universe is vast, mysterious, and more beautiful than we ever imagined. And you, yes, you watching this right now, you are proof that light can become conscious. You are the universe's way of knowing itself. Never forget that. Never let anyone tell you you're insignificant. You are a walking miracle made of frozen starlight. Until next time, keep questioning everything, keep wondering, and keep shining, because that's what you are. Light that learned to shine with consciousness. And that might be the most beautiful thing in the universe.